Welcome back to Jameel Cast, where we explore ideas and innovations shaping the future of our world. Join us as we uncover perspectives and insights at the intersection of purpose and progress, featuring voices from across Abdul Latif Jameel's international network of businesses. This is Alex, your AI host. Today we're set to explore yet another fascinating question. Is South Africa truly gearing up for the electric vehicle revolution? It's a topic that's generating a lot of buzz globally, and it has significant implications for both the economy and environment. With me, as always, is my brilliant co-host Omar.
Thanks, Alex. It's a critical discussion, especially as we see such rapid shifts in the global automotive landscape. We're excited to have our AI guest Sophie with us today, who will be helping us unpack this interesting and complex issue.
Thank you both. It's a pleasure to be here to discuss this electrifying topic. The global automotive sector is undergoing its most radical transformation since the internal combustion engine displaced horsepower. We're witnessing a revolution, quite literally unfolding at an incredible pace.
Electrifying is right, Sophie. We've seen some staggering figures recently, haven't we? Can you give us a sense of the global scale we're talking about with EV adoption?
Yes, of course. In 2024 alone, global electric car sales surpassed 17 million, marking a 25% increase year on year. China led the charge, selling 11 million EVs more than the entire world just 2 years prior. Even outside the major markets of China, the USA, and Europe, sales spiked 40% to 1.3 million, showing this isn't just a regional trend.
Those numbers are genuinely impressive, and it's not just about market demand, is it? There's a significant environmental driver behind this shift too.
These surging sales align with growing awareness around climate change. The past decade has provided the hottest individual 10 years since records began, and we've already breached the 1.5 degrees Celsius target established by the Paris Climate Agreement. By 2025, the global EV fleet neared 58 million vehicles, displacing over 1 million barrels of oil daily. However, this shift hasn't been universal, and that's where South Africa comes into focus.
That really puts the global picture into perspective, Sophie. What are some of the key reasons behind its slower EV transition?
Well, it's not a single issue, but rather multiple structural barriers, really. Geography plays a huge role. South Africa's vast size, spanning 1.2 million square kilometres, means towns are often hundreds of kilometres apart. This means typical EV users rely on home charging, and long-distance travel becomes quite complex.
So range anxiety is definitely a real thing there, even with improving battery tech.
Absolutely. While modern EVs can travel 200 to 300 miles per charge and up to 400 to 500 miles for newer premium models, concerns remain about long journeys across sparsely populated areas in South Africa. As Marinews Venter country general manager Jameel Motors South Africa states, this is one of the main reasons people there have tended to buy EVs as secondary rather than primary vehicles, which is a difficult decision to justify, given that they come at a high premium.
And speaking of price, affordability in general must be a major hurdle given the average income levels.
Precisely. The average monthly income in South Africa is around 21,000 South African rand, approximately $1,225 US. That's significantly lower than in developed markets, which makes the upfront cost of an EV a huge barrier. Even though the total cost of ownership is lower for EVs than for internal combustion engine or ICE equivalents, consumers still worry about resale values and the high cost of battery replacement down the line.
That's a really in-depth look at the consumer side and the economics. Building on what you just said about high upfront costs, it sounds like infrastructure and government policy might not be doing much to help either. What are some of the biggest infrastructure and policy hurdles South Africa faces?
Oh, absolutely, Omar. The infrastructure challenges are in fact quite intertwined with those economic factors. Energy reliability is a massive concern. Fewer than half of grid-connected homes have a reliable electricity supply, and then there's load shedding. It's been a persistent issue since 2007, disrupting everything, and it really peaked in 2023 with outages lasting more than half a day.
So, essentially, even if you can afford an EV, charging it reliably becomes a daily gamble. That makes perfect sense.
Maranus Venter highlighted this, saying, "In relatively recent times, our power supply has been inconsistent. Deficiencies in the infrastructure have made it difficult for people to depend on round-the-clock power supplies. It's a foundational problem for EV adoption, you can imagine."
And what about policy? Are there any incentives, or is it more of a hands-off approach from the government?
Policy support has unfortunately been quite limited. EVs are taxed at the same rate as combustion engine vehicles, despite their higher upfront cost. Maranus Venter also pointed out that the government currently generates significant income from levies on fuel and is understandably reluctant to jeopardize a much-needed revenue stream.
So, economic pressure trumps environmental concerns in that regard, at least for now.
That's certainly how it appears. While South Africa is a signatory to the Paris Agreement, more immediate socio-economic challenges often take precedence. As Maranus Venter put it, there are plenty of places in South Africa without running water or basic facilities. Pragmatically, reducing emissions is a less pressing issue than these basic amenities.
So, with all these infrastructure and policy hurdles, it sounds like an uphill battle. But are we seeing any signs of a turning point? Is there any momentum building despite these challenges?
Absolutely, Omar. While the challenges are significant, there are clear indicators the tide is starting to turn. We've seen incredible sales growth, for one. Between 2023 and 2025, sales actually rose by 80%, and the market's projected to hit $195.5 million by 2033. So, the demand is definitely there.
80% is a substantial jump. It suggests that even with the current roadblocks, people are still embracing EVs. What about the infrastructure side? Is anyone stepping up to address the charging deficit?
They certainly are. Companies like BYD are making huge plays, announcing plans to install between 200 and 300 fast charging stations across South Africa by the end of 2026, including some solar-powered off-grid systems. And Zero Carbon Charge is also developing a network of 120 off-grid charging hubs. We're seeing actual construction along corridors like the N3 already.
That's incredible, especially the off-grid solutions, which would directly tackle the load shedding issue. How's the broader energy supply looking, given you mentioned its previous inconsistencies?
The national energy supply has actually seen some notable improvements recently. Following the commissioning of the Medupi and Kusile power stations, we recorded only 26 hours of load shedding between April and September. So that's a massive improvement and certainly alleviates some of those critical concerns.
Wow, 26 hours is a dramatic change from previous years. And policy, you mentioned that was a major constraint. Is the government starting to shift its stance there?
Yes, some very positive developments there too. From March 2026, EV manufacturers will be eligible for 150% tax deductions in their first year of production. Plus, 1 billion South African rand, or approximately $54 million, has been committed to EV production under the 2035 Automotive Industry Master Plan. The goal is to draw in a further 30 billion South African rand, which is about $1.6 billion in private investment.
This sounds like a significant policy shift, and it sounds like a real shot in the arm for local manufacturing. But Sophie, when we talk about the automotive landscape in South Africa, it's not just about EVs, is it? We're also seeing some pretty big shifts in terms of which brands are actually dominating the market.
Well, while legacy brands still hold around 80% of the market share, what's truly remarkable is the rapid ascent of Chinese manufacturers. In just the last 3 to 4 years, they've collectively captured nearly 20% of the market. It's been a really rapid acceleration.
20% in such a short time is incredible. Are we talking about a few dominant players, or is it a broader invasion of brands?
It's a bit of both. Chery and Great Wall Motors have definitely led the charge, each establishing extensive dealer networks with around 100 outlets. In October 2025, Chery alone commanded 5.6% of the market share, with GWM right behind at 5.5%. But then you have a host of other brands like Omoda, JQ, JTOR, MG, and Bike also expanding their footprint. So it's a very diversified push.
Wow, so it's not just one or two, it's a whole stable of new entrants. And you mentioned Chery's market share. How does that translate into actual sales numbers compared to some of the more established players?
In November 2025, Chery hit a new monthly record with 2,506 sales. To put that into perspective, that single brand's annual performance is actually now on par with the combined sales of Nissan, Ford, and all Stellantis brands. That's a pretty powerful indicator of their impact and growth trajectory.
Quite an astonishing comparison, Sophie. So, these new entrants are clearly shaking things up. But when we talk about all these new models hitting the market, how is that impacting consumer behavior and the overall market dynamics in South Africa?
Great question, Omar. Despite this influx, overall market growth has only been moderate. The key reason is the strength of the used car market, which traditionally outnumbers new vehicle sales by around 2 to 1. The new Chinese entrants, surprisingly, are finding themselves competing more directly with that used car market.
Interesting. So it's not necessarily stealing market share from other new car brands, but rather from the second-hand market. How does that dynamic play out for consumers?
Consumers now face a real choice. Do they buy a second-hand legacy car or a brand new Chinese or Indian model? Increasingly, buyers are opting for the new vehicles. They're drawn to the advanced technology, modern design, and, crucially, the competitive pricing these new brands offer.
So, affordability and features are essentially making new cars a viable alternative to used ones. And I imagine perceptions are shifting too.
Absolutely. The rate at which new models are introduced is much quicker, so yesterday's cutting-edge tech is more accessible today. Many people who previously thought they could never afford such advanced technology are now finding it within reach. And yes, the old narrative around low quality for these brands is really disappearing. It's being replaced by a recognition that value doesn't necessarily mean compromise.
That's really insightful, Sophie. It sounds like a significant shift. And speaking of new entrants and changing perceptions, Jameel Motors is playing a pivotal role here with Changan Automobile, aren't they? How does their partnership fit into this picture?
They are absolutely central to it, Alex. Jameel Motors, through its partnership with Changan Automobile, is bringing a diverse range of vehicles, everything from SUVs and sedans to pickups and new energy vehicles like the Deepal S07 battery EV. They're not just offering variety, but also pushing innovation, which is key for a developing market.
And I hear they're even introducing range extender technology with some of their pickup trucks, like the Hunter F70 and Hunter K50. Is that something consumers are responding to, especially given the infrastructure challenges we've discussed?
That's right, Omar. The range extender EVs have been sparking the most interest. This technology is a game changer because it addresses those very real concerns around range anxiety and charging infrastructure. A backup generator recharges the battery when levels fall to 20 to 30%, offering that peace of mind buyers are looking for.
So, it's about bridging that gap. And Changan itself is quite a significant player globally, isn't it? What kind of pedigree do they bring to the table in South Africa?
Changan is a global powerhouse operating in 70 countries with over 18,000 engineers across global R&D centers. They offer that blend of a long, established manufacturing heritage with cutting-edge Chinese automotive design. This, combined with Jameel Motors' global presence, strong dealer networks, and financing solutions, creates a really compelling proposition for the South African market.
That's a fascinating look at how new entrants like Changan are approaching the South African market, especially with solutions like range extenders. Sophie, building on that, how is this influx of new players and technologies actually reshaping the broader South African automotive market? Are we seeing a significant transition?
Absolutely, Alex. South Africa's automotive sector is definitely in transition. While EV adoption has been a bit slower, we're seeing structural improvements, policy support, and crucial infrastructure investments finally start to shift that momentum. It's creating a more receptive environment.
So, it's not just about the new models then, but the underlying ecosystem evolving. What about this idea of Chinese manufacturers reshaping consumer expectations? Are they bringing something fundamentally different to the table beyond just offering more EVs?
They certainly are, Omar. The rapid rise of Chinese manufacturers introduces new technology and value-driven alternatives, fundamentally reshaping consumer expectations.
So, it's a dual effect. Electrification gaining traction and new market entrants disrupting the status quo. It sounds like despite the initial slow burn, things are really starting to accelerate now.
They sure are. The new energy vehicle market here might have been operating at low voltage for a while, but it feels like a switch has been flicked. The combined forces of electrification and these dynamic new market entrants are setting the stage for a significantly more vibrant and competitive automotive future in South Africa.
So, it's clear that while South Africa's EV journey has faced unique hurdles, the tide is definitely turning. We're seeing real momentum from policy shifts, infrastructure development like off-grid charging, and innovative vehicle offerings.
Indeed, Alex. The fusion of electrification with the rapid entry of dynamic new brands is fundamentally reshaping the market, driving both innovation and value for consumers.
Fantastic insights, Sophie. Thank you for joining us today for this enlightening conversation. To our listeners, we hope this episode gave you a clearer picture of South Africa's evolving automotive landscape. You've been listening to Jameel Cast, the official podcast of Abdul Latif Jameel. For more insights and conversations shaping our future, follow us wherever you get your podcasts or visit alj.com to read our Perspectives articles. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.